Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. We have a lifetime Florida State Seminole fan, that's me, Brandon, and a lifetime Florida Gator fan, my co-host Chris, and we're putting aside our differences to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. Today we will cover the Florida State and Florida victories, as well as how UCF performed on the national stage. We'll work around the state, and we will preview all the coming games in Rivalry Week. So, how you feeling about today's show, my friend?
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm nervous. This is kind of like the peak, the highlight for this podcast for me and you personally. It's a rivalry week. It's FSU hate week. It's UF hate week. Let's go. I'm ready to do this.
Absolutely. I feel like we're sometimes too nice to each other, so let's see if that changes today. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I might start out nice and then end up hanging up on you, but we'll see.
we take our jabs here and there, but I feel like we just won't disguise them today, which is fine.
Yeah.
So real quickly, I will let you go ahead and recap the Florida-Idaho game. We'll talk about Florida State versus Boston College, and we'll go from there. So
okay. Florida hosts Idaho, which I didn't know dropped down to FCS. I didn't realize that. The announcers explained a little bit during the game, but this is how you wanted this game to go. You have three major checks, and you have some smaller checks, if you will. The three major checks is you want to win. You want to win big. You don't want to mess around. You don't want to pull like Alabama did, tied at halftime versus was it Citadel? Who was it?
Yeah, Citadel 10-10.
You don't want to do that. You don't really want to draw any attention. You just want to win big is one. You want to put them away early and scoring the first play of the game from scrimmage. Check on that.
Yep.
And you want to leave the game without any major injuries. Check on that, right? And then there's some other sub stuff which I'll get into later, but this is what you want. How this game to play out. So you drop 28 in the first quarter. You're up like 49-0 at halftime. Plenty of time for subs. We got a lot of subs in there. So I'm real happy about how this game went. Frank's, he had good numbers, but if you watch the game, he still is missing people. But 274 and 3 touchdowns. Again, no interceptions, no fumbles. So I'm liking that out of him. Just another confidence builder for him. Interesting note, running, the numbers don't jump out, but we spread the ball around a lot. But Jordan Scarlett, leading rusher, no rushes.
Yeah.
I think he caught a pass for 3 yards, but just wasn't part of. We didn't need him. We did not need him to do anything. And why risk it? Save him for Florida State. This is for a lot of the starters. It's for him at least. It was a bye week. He got a lot of rest, so it was good on offense. Like they spread the ball around. They're trying to get the ball to Van Jefferson a little bit too much in my opinion. But we got to see Emory Jones play. Came late in the second. He looked pretty decent, pretty good. Missed a few things here and there, but he looked pretty good overall. Got the backup running backs in. Defensively, we got meaningful turnovers. We scored twice, 2 pick sixes, and I think, just off the top of my head, I think this is the third year in a row we've had a game where we've had 2 pick sixes.
Oh, wow.
I think Michigan last year, the year before that, Missouri, and then Idaho, 2 pick. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. So that's just an interesting tidbit. Idaho, they're not that good. I was updating some friends of mine of the game who couldn't watch it. And like, what? We scored again. I'm like, relax. Idaho's not that good. I'm happy. I'm excited. 60. Anytime you score 63 points, it's good. It's tough to score 63 points against air. So it's a good thing, but trying to keep things in perspective. It's just Idaho. I'm not really looking too much at the score, just how we went out and played. And we played well. We didn't mess around. We got some young guys in. We put them away early. No injuries. All things that you like coming in out of a game like this.
Yeah, I completely agree. There used to be an ESPN column on a game summary that said the game was over when, and it was about 4 seconds in when Gardner Johnson had the pick six to start off the game.
I remember that, and I thought that in my head.
It's over when it started.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the biggest thing you mentioned about Scarlett not rushing that popped out to me. The one catch for 3 yards, so you're right, he kind of gets the bye week. Emory Jones, a lot of exposure. And I wonder if any SEC team would ever be courageous enough to run a triple option just to mess with everyone else in the SEC. That's given people like Alabama fits, and you mentioned the Citadel being tied with them at halftime. I don't know. You'd have to be very desperate, and it's not going to work against the defenses and recruits. But it would just be funny to see if, okay, the worst team in the SEC, next year you have to run the triple option.
Yeah.
Go out and hire Paul Johnson if you're Arkansas, and let's just see how well it does for a year.
Yeah. I would really like to see that because, Alabama gave them fits. I mean, one of the reasons that Florida lost to Georgia Southern, they were an option team that we weren't prepared for, among other things. We had a lot of issues going on that year, but that was one of the factors. And just kind of my thing is, if you don't play a Georgia Tech on your schedule, you don't play an Army and Navy, why schedule the triple option team?
Right. Oklahoma has struggled with it against Army this year.
Yeah,
it comes up over and over. So that's one advantage that these teams have. Got to be careful for, but don't know if that would have really helped Idaho in this game.
Yeah,
they do handle business. They score a garbage touchdown late in the game. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, game went about as expected. The only thing I would say to add on to this is the type of game where head coaches tend to use their performances to yell at players.
Okay.
For no reason. Mullen late in the game, and Saban does this all the time anyway, so who cares? But Mullen was yelling at coaches and players late in the second half, and it's kind of that game where the players are even like, okay, he's just doing this to catch the eyes of people that are looking on TV or anyone who's at the game thinking he doesn't have enough fire, because there's no need for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to be complacent in a game, it's a game like this. He doesn't want them to be. I could see why. I don't want him to walk through this week and then continue that sleepwalk through next week. I want him getting fired up. And he was saying, I guess it was our second team punt return or something like that, or punt team, and they just weren't ready, and they had to call a timeout, and he was ticked. But yeah, I agree. Did it really matter? Did you need to get upset for that game? Was the game in jeopardy? No. It's for the big picture. Sure. You're right. Yeah. So, nothing really too much more to comment on that. It is what it is. It's Idaho at home, and you should have beat them 63-10, and you did beat them 63-10. So there you go.
Excellent. So everything we expected there in the swamp.
Yeah.
Florida State is also at home this week, hosting Boston College, and I would say finally the Florida State Seminole fan base has something to cheer about. This is their first good win of the year.
Right.
They upset BC 22-21. Boston College has struggled in Tallahassee. They haven't won since 2008 on the road, so definitely have their number, and we've beat them a lot, but they've also snuck up on us on years that didn't make any sense, like last year.
Right.
So a few notes of the game, of course. I'll start with my positives and the opportunities. We had a kick return that finally pays off. I've talked about this a lot because we have to make up for a poor rushing attack by making special teams plays. So the opening kickoff, we take 44 yards, so that helps. Then we have a big pass play to Helton. The disadvantage is that went for no points. We did have a really nice interception, number 23, Nasruddin, on I think it was BC's first or second drive. We did a few different things on defense to get them some pressure. We gave a 3-4 look in the red zone. Brian Burns was actually one of the people that kind of got up in the grill of the kicker and made the field goal go wide. Now, Boston College's kicker that was only like his 7th attempt of the year, so take that as you will.
Yeah.
Which was evident because Boston College went for it 6 times on 4th down and tried to go a 7th time and actually ended up taking a timeout or a delay of game, excuse me.
Yeah.
But we did actually get some 3rd down stops. We were able to draw some roughing the passer. Let me try that again. Roughing the punter. It's just a bunch of roughness.
Yeah, and that's a play that usually went against Florida State this whole year, or
yes.
they made.
And let's not sugarcoat this. This was not because this was very good special teams defense. There are many times like Virginia Tech and other games where they've gotten through, and really he just got a little rough with it, but he should have blocked it. Yeah. So that's kind of a good and a bad there.
Right. He definitely came in, and I agree. How he didn't block it, I don't know. But then the penalty for not doing it is running into the guy. So yeah.
Yep. So good for us to get that in our favor because we need first downs by as many penalties as we can take. Yeah. But I think one of the key things of this game was some of the younger guys were getting involved. Campbell's getting some passes in wide receiver, but Helton, he's the main guy you're going to start to see a whole lot more. He took a hit on a cross-field pass and just kept going. It ends up getting a first down. That was like at the end of the first quarter. So getting some other guys in besides like your DJ Matthews and your Nyquan Murray, who's a senior. You only got 1 or 2 more games with him. You'd like to see that continue to grow. And he had a long catch against Clemson too. So
right.
Our defense finally showed back up. Now this is not too much of a surprise because I'd mentioned probably a few times that the last 3 games were the hardest of the year, and you would expect some of it to be neutralized, but still frustrating to see the lack of success by the defensive line, and you finally see it again. You get pass deflections. You come up with 2 interceptions, one by Stanford Samuels and another by Nasruddin. You see a lot of tackles for loss. Brian Byrne gets a tackle for loss and a sack. He does this thing where he pretends to be Spider-Man now. Not sure where that habit came from.
Okay.
But it's kind of, just look for it. It's kind of funny. We actually got the rushing game going again, and I never thought I'd say that. I'm dead serious. 156 yards on the ground.
All right.
And that's huge. We
right.
We go up 3-0 and we go up 13-7. Those were our first 2 times we've led in the last 3 games. It's just so many struggles on the offensive line and the rushing attack. When it really mattered, we were able to score. Like at the end of the first half, Cam Akers gets a really long play. He actually was upset it wasn't a touchdown. He got stopped. We ended up settling for 3. Like I mentioned, the 4th down defense, we held him to 3 of 6. When you have a guy like A.J. Dillon who can run the ball and has tree trunks for legs, that's the kind of stuff that they just kind of do. You see Cam Akers just really start to get things going. He had a 55-yard rush that came right after our Boston College touchdown, so we responded well when we could. And just a lot of good, positive things. Now, here's the opportunities. I think special teams is the biggest area I'm really concerned about. That's the only area of our team this year where you're like, you can't excuse the mistakes.
Okay.
And you have crappy punts. You have repeated penalties on kickoffs and punt returns. And just the lack of return yards. And I don't know. You may need to consider a coaching change because you have a guy named Aguayo as a kicker, and he's having one of his worst seasons, and that's not what you want from Florida State special teams.
Yeah.
You do see a couple of mistakes. Francois did throw an interception right after we got a pick. You did see a little bit of the excitement die off from the guys. A.J. Dillon, their running back, just gashed us all night. That's not too much we shouldn't expect, but if you look at their stats, Boston College rushing, it's unfathomable to me how much he gets. Probably 90-95% of their workload as the rusher. It's a little scary to see that. I mean, he's completely their offense.
Yeah.
And obviously their quarterback didn't do so well either. So a couple of things there to be worried about. As special teams, there's not a whole lot of growth there. Stanford Samuels III, he gets badly beat for a touchdown. And there's a lot of concerns there, but overall, obviously, Florida State comes out with the win of our ranked team. First time you can say that in over 2 seasons. They get it at home. Taggart's dancing with the team after the game. It will look like, and as you and I put on Twitter, with 6 minutes to go, Florida State punts the ball away, down by 5. You think it's over?
Yeah, exactly.
The streak's over. The game's over. No, they come up with a stop. They go down. They score in 3 plays. Tamari and Terry. It's basically like 25 yards per catch every time. That's an average because he's now scored 8 touchdowns on the season, and 5 of them are at least 35 yards. So it's clear where the weapons are, and good for the Noles to come out with a 1-point victory. Yeah,
and I'm surprised because normally this team doesn't respond like they did, and they did a good job at that, and especially at the end, like you said, I thought it was over. I was like, okay, that's ball game right there. There's no way Boston College is going to give up the points that they did. The way they've been playing, Florida State hadn't shown really too much of life at that point of the game. But if you're Boston College and they need to score a touchdown, what is your safety doing not behind everybody? Like, what is your safety? The Florida-Tennessee game a while ago where we won in that Hail Mary, what is your safety doing knowing the circumstance? I'm not taking anything away from Florida State because it was a great pass, and he led the guy, and what a skill to just run by that guy. Just very impressive that he just blew by the corner. But what is the safety doing? I don't know if it's a busted coverage or the coaching, but there's no need for that safety to come up in that position.
None.
Give them the short stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have to score a field goal. They have to score a touchdown. Give them all that. Shorten the field. Give them, and just kind of – but that's what Florida State has been hitting the deep ball real well this year, and especially with Terry. And they needed this. They really needed this, not just because of the whole bowl streak and whatever, but just for confidence. They needed this when they needed that play.
Yep. And just to further your thought, the safety, what he did was he crept up on our tight end, Trey McKitty. You're talking about the underneath stuff. Well, why would you even think this guy is a threat? He only caught one pass the entire day, plus he dropped a key third down one in the red zone, which cost you 4 points.
Yeah.
Why would that even matter?
If do some scouting, if it's between Terry and McKitty, you cover Terry, especially if they need to score a touchdown. And I just kind of, it blows my mind when that stuff happens. Yeah. When we were on the end of it, like I said, the Tennessee game, it's very reminiscent of that. Like, the safety crept up a little bit and Cleveland ran behind him. Like, what is he doing? Stand on the goal line. Like, but Florida State did a good job of responding. Every punch they took, they took a step back and they punched back. And Boston College is a physical team, and they whooped them in a lot of areas, but they didn't just roll over. They did a really good job. And Francois throwing over 300 yards. You would like to not have those 2 picks, obviously. But 300 yards passing is pretty good. And like you said, Akers 100 yards rushing.
Yep.
Where was that all year?
Yep.
But he's finally getting that back.
This is probably only one of 2 games where he did better rushing than Jacquez Patrick did, which is kind of a shock because Patrick is the power back,
right?
Getting the short down yardage, and it's good to see. And he saw the openings, and they were there. So that to me is a testament of, like, okay, let's be honest, Florida State, you have one of the 10 worst offensive line / rushing combos in the nation.
Yeah,
and it's well documented, and it's a glaring discrepancy. So how can you get that going? And credit Walt Bell, Taggart, whoever deserves credit to get these guys some kind of offensive push. Yeah. Because, you come to expect at this point Florida State's going to give up 5 sacks a game, and Francois is going to throw one really dumb pass that's going to get intercepted. Like, he just threw it right to him. So this time he throws 2, but this time you get Francois running. He actually rushed for 26 yards. That doesn't sound like a lot, but for an offense like this, it's huge.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and I was surprised at how well he ran too.
Yep.
Okay. So, given how he ran earlier this year, I'm surprised. So what a better time than to get things going offensively.
Yep. So good win for the Noles at home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. We'll just whip around the state, and we're going to keep it a little bit shorter because we want to save time for the game.
Oh yeah.
Well, we want to talk about the game. So we'll just keep it short. Miami goes on the road to Virginia Tech and handles them. And back to playing Miami football, which is forcing turnovers, running the ball well, and using your big physical receivers. I know it's weird, Virginia Tech, the way they started off the season, and now they're not bowl eligible, right? Like after this game, this was, I guess, to fight to see who was going to be bowl eligible.
Right.
And Miami became bowl eligible with this, and just where these guys started off the season and where this game, how this game came out to be was just strange. But Miami responds well. And they handle their business on what they know best.
It's incredible. I don't. I'm at a loss for words at how much of a disappointment the Hurricanes are this season.
Yeah.
And they didn't even beat a good team. Virginia Tech's 4-6.
Right.
And they faced the Cavaliers. So it's hard to kind of watch that. I mean, we've seen the struggle in the state of Florida minus UCF, and Miami just once again proved just some ineptness and some huge gaps between the recruiting and the coaching.
Yeah. Yeah, strange, and disappointment for Vodtech too.
Right.
Considering where they started, but Miami gets to go bowling, and if you had said at the beginning of the season Miami would struggle to get to a bowl, I'd be like, okay,
I would have
come
laughed.
on. Yeah, I'm like, come on, be serious. But lo and behold, but they did, so good for them.
Absolutely. All right, so over the central part of Florida as well, South Florida, the Bulls. Just what a disappointing game for them. This is the game you think the first half they turn it around. They go up 17-0. They get a lot of rushes from Cronkite. They're not shy that they can run it repeatedly, and then all of a sudden you see it start crumble. You see the turf monster come up. I saw so many guys tripping and falling in this game. It was ridiculous. But South Florida just kept pushing through it. They score some points right before the half, and you think, okay, that's it. They're turning the corner. Nope, their kicker just kicks it out of bounds twice. Some really stupid penalties. And the second half, their defense special teams gave it away. They ended up losing by 10. Temple beats them 27-17. Mm-hmm. That's 4 in a row. Now the Bulls have lost, and then you're going into your last game of the season. So I really kind of disappointed in Charlie Strong. This is a team you really had firing on all cylinders. All of a sudden, they just ran out of gas. Nothing's working for them. They're getting blown out. They can't win close games either. I mean, it hasn't helped that they've had to travel a lot, but these are not good teams you're losing to either.
Right.
So the struggles continue in Tampa.
No, I just when you think you know these Florida teams, you don't know these Florida teams.
Yep.
But all right, FAU. We'll talk about the Owls there. They lose on the road to North Texas in a game where North Texas jumps out on top. FAU responds, has the lead at halftime, but the third quarter was all North Texas, and they're just kind of playing from behind there. And what is who is FAU? Who is any of these teams really? Like, what is going on with them? I just don't know. Singletary, he had a decent game, but not as dominant as he normally is. And I would have, he carried the ball for 23 times. I would have bumped it up to 30, but I don't know. I can't make this team. I really can't.
I kind of saw this one coming. North Texas has had some flashes and some good games. They beat Arkansas, for whatever that's worth. So, I think the game with the coaching and that's the shocker here. Maybe they peaked early last season. Hard to say. But, a team that clearly won, I think, 9 or 10 games to end last season, they weren't even in conference contention by Halloween. And it's kind of sad to see, and I'm sure for the players, that's not what they want to see either. They've eked out a couple of wins here and there. But, this was probably the roughest loss, I would think, because FAU last year would have won this game handily.
Right.
And it's so late in the year now, you're kind of desperate for wins, and they couldn't muster it. Yeah,
and a lot of it, like you said, is North Texas, and they're a better team than than they seem. And like you said, they beat the worst team in the SEC, but still pretty talented squad, compared to what they have. So yeah, it was a pretty good game, close game, but just a little disappointing to see FAU slide like they have been.
Yep. So, rough one. And then let's see, we covered. Oh, you'll get FIU in a second. UCF Knights.
Yeah.
Big win on the national stage. They win 38-13 at home. Head coach of Cincinnati, funniest quote I heard on game day was, Mackenzie Milton can, quote, beat you with his mind. So he's
what is he, Professor X?
The truth is he can beat you with anything he's got. Legs, arm, weapons, coaching.
Right.
They win comfortably. And I'll just say this. I was shocked to see UCF's turnover ratio. They lost a fumble in the end zone, which gave up a touchdown, and then Cincinnati couldn't even make the extra point. That was only UCF's 8th turnover of the season. They've only lost 3 fumbles. That was one of them. And they've thrown 5 interceptions. Just quick trivia. You want to guess which team got the most interceptions against UCF this year?
This year?
And how many they got?
Oh, dear. It's probably going to be some... I would say Memphis and 2.
The correct answer is South Carolina State.
Okay.
They got 3 interceptions off Mackenzie Milton.
Okay.
Yeah, the big school there.
Yeah. Okay. Is it that after Milton was throwing?
He was just had a bad game. Yeah,
Okay.
but he played and they pulled him, but that's still a game that they won 38-0.
Right.
So that was kind of the paid win with the Division II school.
Right.
But it's just kind of those one-offs where you're like, okay, well, 3 of their 8 turnovers came in that one game.
Mm-hmm.
So they have plus 16 turnover ratio this entire year. That's hard to beat. One of the things I've liked, and I've seen that UCF's doing more, they're using Killins more to catch the ball. We talked about this last week, I think. So in this game, he had 4 catches, 2 of which were touchdowns, and only had 5 carries for 27 yards. So feed McCray and McGowan up the middle, and then give him a steady diet of screen passes. And when you're feeling courageous enough and feel like he won't get hurt, you can use him on special teams like punts and kickoff returns.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing here, Randy Shannon really got the defensive line fired up. They were so much more improved. So this game actually reminded me of their Pittsburgh win earlier this year.
Okay.
Pittsburgh only managed 1 offensive touchdown in garbage time, and then scored. They actually Pittsburgh scored on a punt return for a touchdown, and I think that one was like 42-13, something like that. So this one ends up 38-13. They score a touchdown in garbage time and then 1 on defense. So, yeah, they really had the defensive line running all cylinders. They ran it 4-3 a lot, which is why the quarterback had some openings, but that's also why things got shut down. They were just confused on some of the looks. And so great showing on national stage for UCF. This arguably is one of the biggest wins in program history, mostly because of the attention with ESPN and all the national coverage, Saturday night, all that good stuff. So,
yeah, it was one of the biggest days in UCF history from beginning to the end.
Yep.
And if Cincinnati had any kind of kicking game, this might be a different game.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
I'm not saying that they're going to win the game, but it looks different for sure. If you kick that, I mean, what a horrible way to start. You miss the extra point, you miss a field goal, you get a field goal blocked. Yeah. Like, I just don't, I don't know. It was just kind of like, after that first quarter, my game's over. Like, they had their chances.
Yeah, their kicker was actually on oxygen after that block kick. I was like, geez, he just is not any kind of athlete at all. And I think this is like conference-wide in the American. Like Matthew Wright of UCF is a great kicker. He's only missed twice this year, one of which was blocked. Other than that, like you saw Temple do the same thing when they played UCF. Like you're like, are you serious? He's only made 5 field goals the entire year, kind of deal. There's just a huge talent gap that UCF has between everybody else, and that close to a Power 5. But yeah, the special teams, man, those are the hidden yardages, and that's where a game can be won. Right.
And once I was like, man, you had those chances. You couldn't start off, on the road against a a highly ranked team and you go and get a strip sack touchdown, and like that's how you start, and then you miss the extra point. I'm like, that's not a good sign. That's not how you finish that. And just you can't let a team like UCF get any. The second they get confidence, they get that home crowd going, and Milton gets going, because they had them rattled early. They really did. But once they let them slip and let them go, forget it. It was over.
Indeed. Sellout crowd. They were actually selling standing room only for this game. That's how big it was. And once you get the offense rolling and the crowd that loud, that's why you saw, so many false starts and delay of games, because they actually couldn't hear.
Right.
It's hard to put that in perspective for some of the bigger schools like Florida, who has a stadium that holds close to 90,000. It's literally double UCF Stadium. But when you're also comparing this to Cincinnati, who for a long time, I don't know if they still do, play at an NFL stadium where no one shows up. Temple's that way for sure, and so is South Florida. Then you go into an atmosphere like this, and that is a problem.
Yeah, and you could tell, like, they started off the game the right way, but then they let the crowd into it. They let Mackenzie Milton into it, and they let those athletes into it from UCF, and that was it. But good job for UCF. Everyone's watching from the beginning of game day till their prime time. Everyone's watching, and they responded well. Because if you lose this game, forget it. There goes your season. Potentially, there goes your program into existence. Like it was that serious.
Yeah.
But they responded well, and good job for them.
Absolutely. So all the best to them, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up here with FIU. They went on the road to Charlotte. Charlotte, not a good team, but we kept it close. They won 42-35. FIU goes to 8 wins on the season. Not much to say about them. They did a good job. That they're playing well, so good job.
Yeah. Charlotte, it's actually a team and kind of hang around. They gave Tennessee a 14-3 close one.
Yeah.
And so they're not totally pushovers, but they're pretty close.
Yeah. They kept it close. They kept it close to a team that was 7 wins. They kept it close. So.
Yep. All right. Well, that wraps up last week, and we appreciate that. Chris, did you want to go ahead and do the UCF-USF preview for next week?
Yeah.
First. Okay.
We'll do the previews of the other teams, and then we'll finish big on ours.
Okay, sounds good. So, a couple of things about UCF-USF. These schools are only 72 miles apart. So, they're going to call it the War on I-4. This is not a long, instilled rivalry that goes back generations. This is only the 10th time these schools have played. They didn't even play consecutively. They played for a while, then they took a break, and then they brought it back. So the War on I-4, quote unquote, that moniker was only adopted officially 3 years ago.
Okay.
So it's a newer rivalry, but I guess according to our definition of what rivalry is, it would count. They made a trophy.
Yep.
And it's used amongst the other sports too: volleyball, soccer, not just football.
Okay.
So the schools are close. That has to count for something. But it is true that they're pretty much on a similar level. UCF clearly has to step up right now, but this will mean something. Now, I'm actually going to have the privilege of going to this game, and from what I've seen, USF is really having to make their money on this one because no one will go to any other games.
Yeah,
and that's a problem you're going to have scheduling in the Americans. You're not going to have big name programs coming, except for every few years. So, I just don't see any way South Florida wins this game. If you're going to keep it close, you're going to have Barnett and Cronkite running the ball a lot. But even Navy proved that's not going to be effective. Maybe you can start to pass it a lot. None of the other teams that UCF's played have proved they can do that either. Maybe you can get on special teams. Well, we just talked about how porous those are in the entire conference. There's very little life left in the Bulls.
Yeah.
If you're losing 4 games in a row to teams that are not any better than you, but also let's just look at the close wins against like the Tulsas and the other teams that they played. They haven't won convincingly, and they continue to underperform. So I just don't see any way this is close. The only thing I can think of that would maybe either help or hurt either team is just the quick turnaround because it's on a Friday instead of a Saturday. So you get one less day of rest. But there's not really any travel involved in this. You've been in the state of Florida, if you're the UCF Knights, for the last month. You're pretty well rested. A lot of these guys are probably from the area. Heck, South Florida has to drive to the stadium nearly as much as UCF does. Okay? So it's not even really like it's almost neutral site.
Right.
So I see it. Another undefeated season. I'm really disappointed in the performance, mostly because we expected so much after last year. And the division has already won. UCF's already clinched it. There's no need for them to worry. I don't see any reason to think that UCF would look ahead. They don't even know who they're playing yet out of the other side. So that also kind of goes in their favor. Just FYI, if Houston wins, it'll be Houston. If not, there's like a 4-way tie.
Okay.
And you have to use a series of breakers like SMU, Tulane, and Memphis are all in there. Yeah, UCF would love to face Memphis again. I'm just kidding. They wouldn't. It'll be the 4th time in 2 years, and not even in the same division. They're on the other side. But there's a possibility that happens. So they don't have to worry about looking ahead. They could focus on winning this game. And they're probably, I think, last time I saw a 12, 13-point favorite. Knights win easily.
The only way I see USF winning is if UCF just, it doesn't cut. It's still stuck from the last week's, such a big hype game. And yes, this is a rivalry game, but come on, USF is not, at that level. We've seen it. They're not playing that well. Maybe there's a letdown. Maybe they're kind of just taking the foot off the gas a little bit, getting ready for their championship game. Maybe. I don't think it's going to happen, though.
Yeah.
USF has been earlier in the season, they played their competition, which means the better teams they played up to. But recently, they're just not. So I just don't see any way that maybe a quarter, just because you're at home, you can give them a quarter, and you have decent quarterback and running back, but I don't think you can hang with them for 4 quarters. No. You can't go that long with them. They're just that much better than you, and they're playing so good right now. So yeah, I say UCF big. I say they cover.
Yeah, I agree.
Easily.
They're going to score 31 points. They still don't fail to do that, and I don't see any reason to think that South Florida scores more than 20.
Right, exactly. So. You can if you have to stop them from scoring, and you have to score as well. So it's just not. That's
how football works. You have to score more than them.
Right. I think you have to get more points. Is the technical, yeah. So it's just not. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. UCF rolls.
Yeah. All right. We'll just get a couple quick hitters here. Miami hosting Pittsburgh. It's an interesting game. Pittsburgh, they won a division, right?
Correct. They've clinched.
Okay. Yeah. So, and Miami getting some confidence. They're back at home. Maybe Pittsburgh doesn't really want to get up for this game. I think Miami might actually squeak this game out. Pittsburgh should win, I think, but I think Miami will a close one just because they want to play more.
I actually went back and forth on this. I was shocked to know that Vegas has Miami as a 5.5-point favorite.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't look at the lines, but I just figured everyone would be
initially, and it has to be Pittsburgh looking forward to Clemson. But
yeah.
Pittsburgh's 7-4. And they are ranked, but I'm taking Pittsburgh here, just so you know, because they've hit their stride with the rushing game. Right, they have just been unbelievable the last 3 weeks. And I'm excited to see them play Clemson. I certainly think Miami has something to play for here. And I actually had Miami circled initially, but I'm going to take the Panthers instead, just because the rushing attack, and Miami showed a blip, but it wasn't against a good team. So I'm not convinced that they can squeak this one out. So,
yeah, okay. All right. That'd be a fun. That's gonna be a real fun one either way.
Yeah.
Let's see. Last couple. AU hosts Charlotte. Should be a victory for the Owls. I think maybe closer than it should be.
Yeah.
I think a field goal.
Give me the Owls. 3. I'll take them by 4. Why not?
Okay. Rivalry week. Ooh. You can feel it. All right. And then FIU finishes their season hosting Marshall. I think the Panthers win. I really don't know, but I'm just going to go with them just because they're playing pretty good this year.
Going to watch this one on Facebook if I can, because that's where the Florida teams are getting some publicity. But I'm going to take the Thundering Herd.
Oh, okay. Oh, rivalry week.
Yeah. Some of these I'm just taking because you're taking the other.
Yeah. Right. Which is fair enough.
No, I'm actually not. I think some of these can be pretty close. I mean, I'm actually thinking. I mean, FAU against Charlotte, they're a huge favorite, but I don't see any reason to think that they can win comfortably because they haven't in so long. So
yeah.
Anyway. All right. So the state of Florida has had its ups and downs. Its ups have almost always been UCF. Its downs have been just about everybody else.
Uh-huh.
The only other bright spot I've seen from the other schools would be Florida State's win against Boston College, the Gators winning against Mississippi State and LSU, and I fail to remember anything else. So, tell me, Chris, let me ask you just one question, then we'll get down to the actual breakdown of the game.
Okay.
What does this game mean for the state of Florida for the Division I football?
This is going to see how well these coaches, the Mullen really is, and how well Taggart is, because he's both. They're trying to. I know Mullen's at least underplaying a little bit, but this is a real good test to see where these programs are. Where these programs are as far as it's going to help it with recruiting, bragging rights. You have this pesky team in Orlando that's saying that they're number one. And now this is going to see, hey, are we actually as good as we say we are? Is the program really going in the right direction? So it means a lot. It really does. Even if one team is ranked and one's not, it means a lot. It's not like for the national championship game or playoff implications, nothing like that, like you've seen in the past. But it means a lot for these programs. Which direction are we going? I think that Florida's going in the right direction. Florida State might have turned to look the right direction, but I don't know how they're going to go that way. Mm-hmm. But really see, it's a good gauge of where your program's at or which way they're heading.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You're going to look back on Sunday morning, and this game will define. It will really switch the whole narrative on your season. Yeah. For the Gators, you can say we've finished 9-3, and we're a hot pick for a New Year's Six bowl.
Right.
Because you know what they want to do. They want to put the Gators playing the Knights.
Yeah, and
writing's on the wall.
Sidebar there. I as a Florida fan right now, I don't want to play UCF.
Okay.
I don't want to play UCF because mainly they know who they are right now, and we're still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to figure out. We got a better idea of who we are as a program, but they're hitting their stride, and like right now, in what better way to prove that hey, we're the best team in the state than to beat maybe the number 2 team. It is one of those things like if we beat UCF, oh, you're supposed to beat UCF. They're the little brother, whatever. You have national championships and Heismans. But if we lose to UCF, then everyone's laughing at us. So it's a lose-lose for us to even play that game.
Yes.
Really. So I don't want to mess with UCF.
There's also a chance that UCF
right now, at least.
Yeah, I mean, either if Peach or Fiesta grabs them, then they could play LSU or maybe a Kentucky or the Big Ten loser. But yeah, I digress. If you see this game as a victory where you beat the Noles, then you look at it and you say, hey, we didn't win the East, which we didn't expect to do because of Georgia.
Yeah.
But you still win 9 games. You have one loss where you're, okay, that's the one we probably shouldn't have had, and we want to take that one back. But otherwise, we turn the corner. You come back against Vandy. You come back against South Carolina. Mm-hmm. All of these games that you would have lost in the past and would have really set the tone for a decline, you're able to build back up.
Yeah.
Florida State, looking at this, there's obviously the bowl streak and everything that's gone wrong, but you look at a team that's been decimated with injuries. The offensive line, the rushing attack have not been there. You see so many games where the guys just quit. Clemson, NC State, you couldn't get it done. You look bad against Notre Dame. You even look bad in your wins. You didn't beat Louisville convincingly. The only games you looked where you were complete was Boston College and probably Wake Forest. Yeah. You know, you look back on the season and the Boston College win helps, but not that much because these are other programs in the ACC you've dominated historically. So you gather some momentum, you beat the Gators for the 6th time in a row, you go to a bowl game again, keep the streak alive, then your whole season looks completely different.
Yep. Yeah. With all the stuff from the losses to the close games to that shirtless professor in the stands, all that's going to go away if you beat a 13th ranked Florida Gator team, something like that. Your rival for the 6th year in a row. That's all going to go away, and your season is saved. It was kind of saved last year. You had hope last week. I mean, but it's saved if you beat the Gators.
Yep. I don't know if "save" is the right word, but you salvaged some dignity and pride because you still, preseason I predicted 8-4. Obviously, that can't happen, and I think that's what you predicted for the Gators as well.
7-5.
Oh, that's right. I had 8-4. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, already exceeded expectations by what you thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, before we get too riled up, what are some of the ways that you think Florida wins this game, or some ways that you feel like they may struggle?
I'll go with my concerns, and then I'll give my hopes.
All right.
All right. So, the things that concern me is you saw at the end of the Florida State game, they can throw the ball deep. If you give the quarterbacks time, both of them have arms, and they have some receivers that can go deep. We have the second half of the season, our secondary has been an issue. It's been a liability. Outside of C.J. Henderson, it's been a liability. A bunch of young guys, a couple of injuries here and there. And so that really concerns me. The passing game concerns me a lot. Our safeties are hit or miss. Our other corners are hit or miss. I like Gardner Johnson in the nickel, and I like C.J. Henderson, but the other guys I'm just not confident about. Like I said, if we see C.J. McWilliams on the field, we're going to lose the game. So don't let him travel with the team. He stays in Gainesville. I hate to just pick on this guy, but even when he came in versus Idaho's receivers were catching all over him. And I was like, this guy, I don't know. I don't know what to do with him. So anyways, so that definitely concerns me. Brian Burns, he concerns me. He is really good. Our offensive line's playing better, and we've had some success this year. But if you have to know where he lines up at every play, where is he lining up, and what's our plan for him? I don't like just leaving him one-on-one all the time unless we're running away, running the ball away from him.
Yep.
Have a chip with a fullback, a tight end, double team. Figure out where Burns is. So those things really concern me a bit. And, one thing that really, really concerns me is now that Florida State won last week, now they have confidence. You don't want a team with confidence. And now we are in the way of them going to a bowl, continuing the streak. And now that they won, now they're like, we can play. We know how to win a game. We know how to win against a ranked team. We know how to win against in home. All these things that gives them confidence, which I don't like. I don't like that they have confidence because we play them. And what better way to do that than your one of your biggest rivals? Yep. And so, not really liking that. I'm really concerned about the fact that things are rolling for them at this time of the year. Because if they lose last week, why play this game? Give me a reason to be motivated to play this game. But they didn't, and now I'm kind of like, great, now we're in the way. So those are the things that really stick out. I mean, a couple other things too, but those are the things that really stick out to me and give me, some anxiety, if you will. Like, okay. I don't like this. I don't like where this is going. If we see the potential with Akers, given open space, if they give us some looks that we're not used to, their up-tempo pass-it team, man, the last up-tempo pass-it team that we faced was Missouri, and you saw we got worked. We got just absolutely worked. So that really concerns me. That style doesn't really match up well for us. So those are some things that really concern me. The things that give me hope is our offensive line, in specifically the running game. We have been able to run, and Florida State hasn't been able to stop the run that well. So I do like that. I do like that we have two running backs. And I'm even confident with Pierce, a freshman, if he has to come in, doing pretty well. And even Franks is getting into the play of running, and he's running himself too, and being more confident runner. So I really like that. I like the potential of our pass rush with Polite, Zuniga, and Jefferson. The second half of the year, they've been a little inconsistent, but I do like their potential. And I know Florida State's offensive line isn't the greatest, so I kind of like that matchup there. And they're going to have to be on their game if they're going to help out the young secondary that we have in the back there. So those two things really give me hope. And we've had some people that were dinged up and injured coming back. Freddie Swain looks like he might be able to come back from an ankle injury. A few other guys, one of our Hagee, our lineman, he's going to come back too. So one thing that does, I am worried to see Brad Stewart, our safety, who was out, I think maybe the last two games. He's trying to get back for this game. They don't know at this point. They don't know yet. We really need him to be playing. So those are things that give me concern. Those are things that give me hope. What do you say?
I like that. Yeah, the very good take, Chris. I think a lot of what you said, you're going to hear me kind of repeat or mirror because they're probably some of them are going to overlap a little bit. So I like your format. So some things that are exciting to me as a Noel fan coming into this game. Probably the biggest thing is Taggart's history with the Florida State Seminoles. Mm-hmm. You have a guy who was born and raised a Noel fan, and he knows the significance of this game. Grew up in the 90s, wanted to play Florida State so badly. Isn't going to Western Kentucky because he could, in his mind, quote, he couldn't quite make it the Noles. So there's no doubt in my mind, games like this he's prepared for and lived for his entire life. And that's a huge upside. I'm not saying anything about Mullen not being ready for this game. But I don't think the pedigree is quite there. So I like that. The defensive line is another anchor that has finally started to upswing again. So, yeah, Brian Burns is going to be all over the place. We put him on special teams. He's going to be a handful. But if you can get him paired up with Kando, with Marvin Wilson to have a great game, then this could be a defensive line in the backfield the entire game. We're really good with tackles for loss. When we get things going, we get some pressure. And that's where we're going to have to really, really focus. To be honest, I guess the biggest other strength, which you touched on, was the receiving game. If we can get things going, and that's always dependent upon getting time in the pocket, of course, and stepping up. I think that Francois convinced himself, really, I can run the ball again. I can step up. I can take a few yards. I can take some hits that are not in the pocket. I can actually get tackled moving forward for once.
All right.
And he can be dangerous. The accuracy, as you've seen with Tamori and Terry, he only catches 3 to 5 a game, but they're always huge hitters. We got more guys involved. Helton's getting more passes. Campbell. We know that DJ Matthews has the chance to throw. Him and Cam Akers were both a quarterback in high school. So they have an arm. So they got a little bit of a trickery there. And we've had to use that a lot more than we wanted to. But the chance to have him throw out of the backfield or do some laterals, that's really, really a deep threat. And it's something you may want to watch for because it's happened a couple of times already this season. So, yeah, the big playability from Cam Akers. He finally got loose again. You saw flashes of it against Virginia Tech, and you saw it against Boston College. So we know when the moment is very, very heated, it can happen. It's all comes out of the offensive line, and, yeah, they made some strides, but let's not kid ourselves. That has to be where it all starts and ends right there. Everything else, honestly, Chris, is a concern for me in this game. Special teams, the kicking is not there. The penalties, the return yards. I'm not worried about their composure anymore. I feel like they've recovered from some of the dips of like the Clemson game, etc. The secondary is very susceptible. Yeah, they've had flashes with interceptions, and Nasruddin, Samuels, and Devontae Jackson is really coming into his own as a linebacker. But this has been a weakness for the defense the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
They can give up some big plays, and I know that Florida doesn't throw the ball nearly as much as they run it. But if the running backs get into the secondary, we're in trouble. They're going to start taking off, and I don't see a lot of reason to be hopeful if you start seeing a drive where you're getting gashed for 10, 12 yards at a time.
Yeah.
Florida's going to put it in the end zone, because usually it's the passing teams that struggle when they get in the red zone because the field shortens. Rushing teams don't have that kind of problem. So, Florida State, can you muster up the courage and have the strength to go toe-to-toe? I feel like recruiting-wise and strength and conditioning-wise, these programs are pretty equal and always have been. So I'm kind of concerned there on defense. I guess it's special teams. Offense, even a mediocre defensive line is going to get through with these guys. It's just been the case. You know, Zach Allen of Boston College, he's not as good as he played last week. We just made him look like a superstar. And I encourage fans to go listen to the Nolecast as another one. You know, that every week the joke on their show is, okay, who's going to look like an NFL prospect because they play our offensive line. Week in and week out. It's just, okay, just take turns. Just pick one. And it's not going to be any different here. The defensive line, the ends are going to get through. You're going to see some tackles, and even you caught onto this pretty early on. You're like, is he even like touching these guys, or just going straight to the quarterback?
Yeah.
So you're going to get 5 sacks. That's just going to happen. Florida State's going to have to play better than that, because it's just going to be the case. Or, I mean, the other sacrifice is you get a bunch of holding calls. Your choice. Mm-hmm. So those are my positives, and then some concern. Obviously, the home field advantage helps.
Yeah.
And this game is always full because the schools are so close to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So, any rebuttal on that?
The one thing is that I think our ends are solid. Our D tackles really haven't, I don't know, hurt, but never really shown up as a positive either. And we have decent middle linebackers. And Voshon Joseph has shown games where he's balled out, but sometimes he doesn't. So if FSU goes right up the middle, I think they have, running the middle or throwing over the middle. I think you're gonna might find some success that way, and quick passes to negate the pass rush is going to help. But I do like Voshon Joseph going out in the flat and going after someone. So one thing I do like, I forgot to mention, I do like Florida's special teams versus FSU special teams. You touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
I do like that matchup a little bit better. Although the last two we haven't really played great in special teams. But overall, I like our kicking game, return game. And also, I do like Kadarius Toney in the rushing game as well. I forgot to mention that. Getting him, I think he's going to be an X factor. Getting him the ball and touches in different situations is really going to help the Gators.
Yeah, Toney, maybe I forgot to mention him on purpose. He's probably the scariest one. Kadarius Toney is your version of Tamarian Terry, I would assume.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, great, he's going to get the ball, touchdown. So, yeah, you got to be very, very careful. The reason I mention special teams so much is just because of the field position. We've lost because of it. That's been that wasn't the case against everybody, but in the games where we just looked abysmal, it was because we started so deep and then we just couldn't do anything with it.
All right. Okay.
All right. So here come the predictions, Chris.
We're gonna do scores too, or
why not?
Yeah, I think we do scores for this. All right. Let's see. I'm so nervous about this game. I know that Florida should win. They're the ranked team. Florida State's had their struggles. Florida State's win last week really really got me concerned, just because, like I said, the confidence, they're rolling. Florida, they had a warm-up game, got a lot of reps for the backup, Emory Jones. We're trying to figure out, see if he's going to play or not, if we're going to need him or not. Hopefully you don't see Emory Jones because things are probably going good, but we're prepared just in case. So that helps. I think the biggest thing though is the turnovers. It's going to come down to turnovers. If Franks is not fumbling the ball or throwing interceptions, Florida's going to have a good game. If Akers is not dropping the ball on the ground and Francois is not throwing interceptions, Florida State's going to have a good game. I've been going back and forth on this. The Debbie Downer in me is wants to pick Florida State. I really do. And in my opinion, tonight it's going to be different than tomorrow. Then game day is going to be totally different. But I say Florida wins 27-26, 1 point. Just a 1 point. Florida State comes out strong. This Florida team's real good about being resilient and bouncing back. They played pretty well on the road in some hostile environments, Mississippi State, at Tennessee. And I think they had just enough in the kicking game, and then they force enough turnovers or don't turn the ball over enough to win 26-27.
All right.
Barely. I mean, this was we're ranked 13th and going against a team that's looking to be bowl eligible, and it should be whatever. I don't know what the spread is, 5 or 6. But I mean, early on, I thought Florida State. I was picking Florida State, and I might lean Florida State tomorrow. But right now, Florida by 1.
All right, has the Gators going 9-3. So I don't like the cliche where people say it's a rivalry game, you should throw out the records, because I don't think that's totally true. Yeah, there's an element to games like this where teams play above themselves, where the emotions get the best of them, where I knew this guy because we were playing in the same high school or district, and he got recruited there and I got recruited here. There's always that with this game. There's always the history, especially from the 90s, but even before that. And, there's plenty of jokes about Florida State being an all-women's school up until 1947 when they integrated. And then the Gators refusing to play this game unless we went to the swamp 4 years in a row to start it in the 70s.
Yeah.
And all of the hatred back and forth. And so you can't ignore that when you roll into Saturday, when you come into Doak Campbell Stadium. So that plays a factor, and I think that's the biggest thing Florida State has in their favor. That in the passing game, that you have to win on those two things. So I think that Florida State will get their passing plays that they kind of expect. I think they got a couple of surprises, but I don't think we have too many surprises left. We've kind of expended most of them at this point. So some success in the passing game, some success, very, very little with the rushing game. Special teams, who knows? Coin flip. Maybe Aguayo hits some. I've said with our punter, Logan Tyler, he'll have 3 punts that are average, and the fourth one is either really good or really bad. There's very little monotony with our special teams. And I look at a Knoll team that's decimated with injuries. It's had struggles the entire year, but yet continues to fight on and continues to adapt and figures out a way to have some kind of rushing attack or to sometimes sneak in some looks here and there. Go for it on 4th down. Some things that you wouldn't expect them to always do, but you kind of have to have necessity. And I like the way the program's going. I like that they're at home. I'll make a lot of fans mad here. I'm taking the Gators to win this game. I think they win at 24-20 in Doak. The streak ends at 5, and Florida State's bowl streak is over.
Oh, going against Florida State.
Obviously, I hope I'm wrong.
Right, and I hope you're right. I hope I'm right. And I was literally going back and forth. And initially, I was like, Florida State, they got a momentum now, and I stepped back and I thought about everything, and I'm so nervous for this game because Florida State can easily win this game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're a better team, but we see with college football and sports in general, momentum, home field advantage, all that stuff really plays a factor into it. And yeah, I could see it. Doak's going to be rocking. I cannot wait though. I can't wait. I want it to be over. I want to know, should I start being depressed or should I celebrate? I can't wait till Saturday to know.
Yeah. Well, and both teams have shown they can beat a good team. Florida State with Boston College, and then we mentioned Mississippi State and LSU wins for the Gators. Both teams can show they lose to a bad team.
Yeah.
Like Missouri, and then with Florida State, just about everybody else. And Sanford, you eke out a narrow win. You lose really badly to Syracuse, who, having a good season. I get that. But, yeah, those are games you just don't even look competitive in.
Yeah.
And so,
but I think the Gator team that's beat Mississippi State and LSU is not the Gator team you're seeing right now. They're a little bit different.
Okay.
Some things better. I think our offense is a little bit better. Defense, not so much.
Yep.
But, yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be close. I don't see anybody just walking away with it.
Yep. And, I mean, the last time that Florida won this game, Florida State had a comfortable fourth-quarter lead. That's what worries me, is if Florida State were to get up in this game, I don't think there's a way we press on the accelerator or know how. If we're up big, and by big I would mean 10 or more, that means we've used everything we've got to get there, and I don't know that we could hold on.
Yeah. I think if it goes to a point where Florida's up 2 scores, I think we have a better shot of holding Florida State back. But if it's reversed and Florida is down 2 scores, I think we have a better shot of overcoming that.
Yeah, what worries me is Florida knows they can come back because they've done it twice.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me. Florida State hasn't needed to because it hasn't even been a contest, and in the close games, Louisville, I guess, was a comeback, but that's kind of they gave it to us. And then Boston College, really. So, I mean, I'm pointing to the Boston College game because that's all we have to show as proof, hey, there's a chance we can do this.
Yeah. Just why is it the week before the Gators? Come on. Why? But we're going to have a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about next week.
Absolutely. But it won't be playing in conference championships. And that's why this one means so much, is because this is it.
Yeah.
Then you sit back and wait for your bowl bid. Hopefully both teams. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. So, be a fun one. Excited. I'm really excited, man.
Absolutely.
Really excited. And nervous. Like, so nervous at the same time. But excited.
I feel like all the pressure is on Florida in this year.
Yeah, it is. I totally agree. Like, we have everything to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Florida State's the bowl streak and all that stuff, but you watch this season as the season's playing out and how things have turned out. Yeah, it's on us. So I don't like.
Yep. All right. Well, man, that got me all fired up. Got the juices flowing.
Good.
Any last thoughts before we turn our fans over to all the crazy college football this Thanksgiving weekend?
No, I'm glad that I'm gonna be distracted with family and food to get me through the week faster.
Yeah. I mean, this is actually meaningful football on Thursday. Usually you get one or two decent ones, and there's the MAC that'll start playing Tuesday night. Excuse me, but you get some really good nationally meaningful games starting Thanksgiving night, which always exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun time of the year.
Yep. And this is what we live for, fans. So thanks for tuning in, man. This is it. I hope that you've listened to this point, so we know you're dedicated. This is the one episode we want to make sure that you come to. Hey, what does Florida Focus think about what's going on this week? And hey, tell your friends. These guys, they cover the entire state the entire year. They're not bandwagoning for UCF. They've been covering it the entire season. One guy lives in Orlando. He covers it all the time. But there's Florida State and Florida fans, and they haven't shied away from their opinions. That's all we can ask for, right?
Yep. It's a fun, good time, and tell your friends about it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I've literally winded myself just
take a break.
Worked up here.
You take a break and breathe, and I'll tell fans how they can reach us.
Okay, please do.
All right, cool. So the first place was the website, FloridaFocusPodcast.libsyn.com, Libsyn, Libsyn, Facebook and YouTube, Florida Focus Podcast. Very active on Twitter at Florida Focus Pod. Please feel free to email us your predictions, your scores, keys to the game, Florida Focus Podcast at yahoo.com. And, of course, Snapchat and Instagram, FL Focus Pod. And, of course, our Patreon account. If you feel so inclined as to chuck us a buck so we can help give you better and more content.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Chris. And then just a really quick thought before we sign off. We talked a little bit about what a rivalry is. So just to surmise that, I think that some of the things that kind of define it would be some of the hatred between the schools, some of the equal prestige, and that's what Florida State Florida is all about. You can sometimes harken back to the 90s and how every year was a top 5 matchup and all that good stuff, but it wouldn't mean anything if the schools didn't go on to succeed despite those games, in my opinion. So, proximity doesn't always matter. Notre Dame and USC are rivals. They're playing this weekend, and they're not anywhere close.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they are close doesn't make them rivals either. So, yeah, I think that, and plus the fact that you're going to constantly recruit the same type of people, and it may come down to a recruiter too. That makes a huge difference too.
And just how much your fans hate each other.
Yeah.
Although you couldn't tell that we're rivals, though.
Yeah.
You jerk.
I don't even like your colors. I just don't.
Yeah.
They don't even go together.
Garnet. What's a garnet? I mean, I'll give you gold, but garnet, come on.
Actually, speaking of that, do you know what the uniforms they're wearing? Florida State has said garnet pants, garnet jersey, and gold helmet.
Oh, they're going...
Yeah. Are you guys going all white?
They haven't announced yet.
No, okay. Maybe just a surprise.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're going to go all green, because that worked out great before.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I once the season's over, we're going to have some time to actually break down like the schools we hate and why.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Just for now, know that it's really high up there for both of us on this.
Yeah.
And this is not a game either one of us wants to lose. And yeah, I meant it when I said it makes people upset, but I really think the Gators are a better team this year, and I see too many holes with Florida State. And obviously, I don't want it to go that way. And I want Florida State to rout the Gators, but I just don't see any way that happens.
Yeah, I respect you, and there's a lot of Florida State fans I respect, but make no mistake about it, I hate Florida State. I watch Florida State a lot of times to watch them lose. Just so happens I'm also doing this podcast, and it helps with my research. But yeah, I do not like Florida State. I don't like that war chant. That's annoying. The tomahawk chop.
Only because you hear it so much.
That's annoying.
So we're always scoring.
That horse can run off a cliff for all I care.
Oh,
that's annoying.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All of it's annoying. So don't get me wrong. I do not like Florida State, but I do like you, and I'm glad that we're doing this together. Looking forward to more of these, and looking forward to next week's podcast. Hopefully, talking about a Gator win. Hopefully.
Well, I don't hope so. But I mean, we do say at the top of each show, putting aside our differences, we do it for you, the fans. We put them aside. It's more important that we bring you the Sunshine State football than talk about how bad it is to have a reptile as a mascot. There's only so much we can do to avoid that kind of stuff.
I will get to say that our mascot, he is an alligator who wears a sweater, no pants, in Florida. So I will give you that one. It makes no sense. Like we're Sunshine State. We humidity everywhere, and you're gonna put a sweater on, cut those sleeves, get a tank top. But I do like a gator. Like a gator's pretty cool. Like just they're kind of like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And they are my spirit animal because they are lazy, but every now and then they'll have a quick strike and get
Okay.
If they want some food, they'll go fast. I'm the same way. I'm pretty lazy, pretty docile. But if there's food around, I'm running to it, and I'll get anybody. I'll knock anybody out gets in my way. So
that's good. And I've also like really respected the fact that Florida State and Florida's mascots actually have a true tie and heritage to the state of Florida itself.
Yeah.
Like the unconquered Seminole tribe in the state of Florida, and then the Gators are a huge part of the swamplands and the actual nature of it. And yeah, you and I've bonded over a lot of animal stuff, and so yeah, I'm a sucker for a good animal.
Yeah.
And the Gators are certainly interesting. I don't know about good, but they just kind of are what they are. As long as you don't mess with them in May. May is just for the non-Florida people listening. May is when you don't mess with because they're coming out of hibernation, looking to breed. They're pretty aggressive. Yeah. Other than that, they're right. They're pretty lazy. They just don't do much.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I love them.
Man. All right. Well, thank you to the fans for listening. We will have a lot to dissect next week. And stay tuned because Chris and I don't know, maybe have some awards to give out to some teams. We have plenty of bowl predictions to break down. It's looking more and more, Chris, like there's going to be at least one or two Florida teams that have a bowl game in the state of Florida because there are so many. There's one in St. Pete. There's 3 in Orlando. There's the Orange Bowl. There's the Gator Bowl. There's the Boca Raton Beach Bowl. There's even one in Nassau, Bahamas. I know that's not Florida, but it is off the coast. So, state of Florida is ripe with bowl games. And it'll be kind of cool to see if some of the people get to play one in state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like that.
Yep. All right.
I like that a lot.
Well, thank you to all the fans again. However you found us, we would appreciate a subscribe to our show, a 5-star rating, and take 30, 45 seconds to actually leave a physical review, even if it's 1 or 2 sentences. We want to know how we're doing and how we can make the show better.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Any last thoughts, Chris, on Rivalry Week before we sign off?
No, let's do this. Let's do this. Chomp, chomp, let's do this.
All right. Go Noles, War Chant, all that good stuff. This is Brandon signing off saying go Noles.
Go Gators.